All right, we are live.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the March Commission meeting. Always one that us healthcare wonks look forward to. All of them, though, are as equally exciting to me, and I welcome you to today's March meeting. I'm Valerie Sullivan. I'm chair. I am joined here with my esteemed commissioners and staff of the GIC. We have for commissioners, we have Bobby Kaplan, vice chair. We have designee Catherine Hornby for ANF. We have designee Rebecca Butler for the Division of Insurance. We have Commissioner Liz Shabbat. We have Commissioner Adam Chapdelaine. We have Commissioner Toby Choate. We have Commissioner Tamara Davis. We have Commissioner Jane Edmonds. We have Commissioner Joe Gentile. We have Commissioner Patty Jennings, Commissioner Eileen McNamee. We have Commissioner Melissa Murphy Rodriguez, Anna Sinenko, Commissioner, and Tim Sullivan, Commissioner. I am pleased now that we've taken roll call and you know who's here, that I'm going to pass this over to our executive director, who's going to go through our agenda for today. And it's a packed one. So thanks, Matt. Take it away.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome, commissioners. Welcome, members of the public following along on YouTube. We're thrilled to see you today. As you noted, Madam Chair, it's a big meeting for us. We just met a couple of weeks ago, and as is typical for our March meeting, we have only one agenda item, but it is a big and important one. That is a vote on the premium rates for our plans for the coming fiscal year and some other related votes. So with that, Madam Chair, I turn it over to you to take up the minutes for the February meeting.
I'm on mute. I'm off mute now. Thanks, Matt. Yes, it's a busy agenda. I also want to let the public know that Commissioner Gurzino Gerard has joined us, so welcome. And at this time, I'd like to ask the commissioners if they've had a chance to review the minutes from our February meeting, which feels like just yesterday, and see if we can either discuss or take a vote. Any motions here? Discussions?
So moved to accept the minutes. I move to accept the minutes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second. A second. Oh, okay.
So thanks, Bobby and Liz. At this point, I'd like to say yay on my vote and pass it over to Andrew, our general counsel, for a roll call vote.
Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair Kaplan,
Yay.
Undersecretary Hornby,
Yay.
Designee Butler,
Yay.
Commissioner Shabbat,
Yay.
Commissioner Chapdelaine,
Aye.
Commissioner Choate,
Yes.
Commissioner Clenard, Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
Commissioner Edmonds, Commissioner Edmonds,
I think that was an aye vote.
I think it was, yes. Commissioner Gentile,
Yes.
Commissioner Gerard, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Commissioner Jennings,
Abstain, I wasn't present.
okay. Commissioner McNamee,
Aye.
Commissioner Murphy Rodriguez,
Yes.
Commissioner Tim Sullivan, Commissioner Sullivan,
I see his hand up.
Okay.
Andrew.
I'll take that as an affirmative.
It looked
Commissioner
that way.
Sinenko?
Yay.
Thank you. The motion passes.
All right. So much easier when we were in person to do these votes, Andrew, but you do a very nice job, so thank you. All right, let's get into the meat of the meeting. Go ahead, Matt, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll move on to the Executive Director's Report. Again, with the quick turnaround from our February meeting, the written Executive Director's Report is fairly brief. I provide an update from HR on our continued hybrid work model at the GIC, and have again provided the Commission with a full summary of our communications efforts leading up to annual enrollment. We want to make sure that you have a sense of all the work that we're doing in that space. If you have not already, I encourage you to take a look at that to see how we're engaging with our members with all of the changes this year heading into annual enrollment. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions on the Executive Director's Report.
I don't see any. I just wonder if you can give a tiny brief overview of the training that the team is getting. I know it was in the Executive Director's Report. Maybe some of our constituents would like to know about the commitment, the ongoing commitment to customer service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the training I think you're referencing was in the Executive Director's Report from our February meeting where we, but I'm happy to touch on that again. We've got actually a variety of trainings going on for our staff, including some specific, a specific training that NAGE helped us to secure funding for regarding customer service skills, and in particular, how to deal with members who are sort of frustrated and charged up and perhaps upset, which can sometimes happen when we're talking about health insurance, as complicated as it is. So we've got a variety of other trainings too over the coming months to prepare our staff with some of the kind of newer features that we have put in place for this annual enrollment around the member portal. So there's a lot happening internally to continue to support our staff in those ways.
Right, great, thank you. Thank you,
bet.
Matt.
Yep.
All right, I don't see any other hands up, so we've got a lot to cover. Let's move to Jim's presentation.
So briefly, first, Madam Chair, I just want to take a quick look at the calendar as we typically do, just to make sure you have a sense of where we're headed in the coming months. As I said today, we present the FY24 rates. There will be no commission meeting in April, as we've informed you in past meeting. This will allow our team to focus completely on annual enrollment, including the member enrollment, annual enrollment information sessions that we're hosting in just a few weeks. I do want to draw your attention to a few items that we have added to the calendar for our remaining meetings in the spring. In May, in addition to, we will present trust funds for a vote by the Commission. You will also hear from our data analytics team on the annual out-of-pocket report, and they will also give an update on the work that we've been doing around behavioral health, of course, one of our 3 main strategic areas of focus. In June, Paul Murphy will provide a recap of our annual enrollment, since we will at that point have that behind us. And he will be joined by Stephanie Sutliff to review where we are on our modernization initiatives, which continue full speed ahead at the GIC. So also on that June meeting, the analytics team will also be back to update on our carrier performance guarantees. So these are important elements of our contracts with our vendors, and this will include detail on how we are essentially holding them accountable on important items for us around health equity, around affordability, and certainly behavioral health. So much more to come on that. So we have a couple of busy meetings to round out the fiscal year. This will bring us to July, where, of course, on July 1st, coverage becomes effective, and then we take a break as a commission for the summer months.
Hey, Bobby, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just have a question regarding the annual enrollment sessions. I know there were going to be 5 in March. And I just wanted to, I just wanted to sort of be clear about the ways in which that's going to be messaged. Like, are you doing like a email to employees, Matt, regarding the sessions? I've had some questions regarding annual enrollment and how that's going to be messaged, like to the coordinators and also to employees and retirees, because I know there were 2 retiree sessions. And another question is, are those sessions, I'm assuming, are going to be recorded? Are they so people can, if they miss it, can access those sessions?
Yeah, for those, I would hand it over to Emily Williams, our Chief of Staff, who has worked with Leslie Montero on the communications plan. And I would just refer you and other commissioners again back to the written summary of those efforts in the executive director's report. Some of your answers may be found there. Emily?
Yes, thanks, Matt. So we are sending out emails. Those should be coming this week, and we are partnering with HRD as well to make sure that we are reaching employees with them. Also partnering with mass retirees, the State Retirement Board, to help us reach the retirees. And any member who's already enrolled for the portal will be able to find information there. And also any members who are watching today, it is on our mass.gov GIC website, the link, so you could also go directly to our website. But as Matt mentioned in the executive director's report, we provide the full breakdown, which and I'm happy to always, if you would like to email me, I can provide more information there. But we will be emailing with all members and communicating primarily through email and through our partnerships. And the sessions will be recorded and available on our YouTube after they are completed. And we'll make all of the information available as well, the deck and a frequently asked questions list.
Thank you.
And Bobby, if there's any way that we can be of assistance to you in getting word out to your members, that would be extremely helpful. So we're happy to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question, Bobby. Thank you. Others with constituents, may want to make sure that there's widespread distribution of these sessions. I think the staff are doing an excellent job trying to reach as many members and constituents as possible. The email, the collection of the emails, the ability to communicate with email can't be overstated. So good work to everyone getting email correspondence. It's timely and it's effective in making sure that your coverage is what you want it to be, or at least that's the promise. All right, let's keep moving.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Now we'll move on to the meat of today. Before I hand it over to Jim Rust, our CFO, and Margaret Anschutz, our Director of Health Policy and Analytics, they're going to take us through the presentation and a series of votes. These will include dental and vision rates, the reserve allocations for elderly government retirees, what we refer to as EGRs, final premium rates for each health insurance product that we offer for fiscal 24, and the municipal administrative fee. a tremendous amount of work has been going on, being done by the staff and our colleagues at WTW to pull this all together. And I want to thank them for all their work. This has included, some really hard work on the part of Jim's team and Willis to press back on our vendors on their trend assumptions to arrive at the most accurate projections possible and the lowest premiums ultimately as possible. So the votes today represent the last formal step for the commission in this process, but it is by no means for us the end of the work as a staff. What follows today's vote is an intense all hands on deck implementation sprint so that we're ready for annual enrollment beginning on April 5th. Our members are as informed as they can be, as we've talked about many times, and that everything is in place for July 1st and a smooth start to new coverage. So with that, Jim, please get us started.
Thank you, Matt. Good morning, commissioners. Today, Margaret and I will be presenting the GIC rates for FY24, which, as you know, have an effective date of July 1st, 2023. This includes information on the dental vision rates, which are set by the contract that you may recall the commission approved 3 years ago. Rates for the GIC's health plans, which will require a vote. Proposed subsidies to the rates for our elderly government employees, which will also require a vote, and a vote to approve the municipal administration fee. As Matt said, the work to get to this point and the ongoing work for annual enrollment is a cross-organizational effort that included every department at the GIC and our partners at WW. And I would also like to recognize everybody's ongoing work and collaborative spirit to serve our members. Next slide, please. I will not read all the dental vision rates that we're presenting today. There's several slides from this point on that have the rates. As I mentioned, these rates were set by the contracts with MetLife and Davis Vision. FY24 is the third year of the contract with MetLife and Davis. There are no changes to the benefits. And this slide is the retiree dental rates, which are increasing slightly over FY23. Next slide, please. And these are the rates for the active plans, dental plans, which also have a small increase over last year. Next slide, please. And these are the individual active rates. I'm sorry, these are the active rates for the vision plans for FY24. These rates have actually decreased slightly from FY23 by about $1. Next slide, please. And combining all the rates so you can see how they actually are paid for by the members. Here are the combined dental vision rates and totals for FY24. Next slide, please. And finally, based on the 15% contribution rate, these are the monthly member contributions for all of the plans. And with that, these are the dental vision rates for FY24, which again, we present mostly as a refresher and for informational purposes and to show you a complete view on all the rates that the GIC will have this year. So are there any questions on this?
I don't see any, Jim.
Okay, great.
What?
All right, if there are no questions, we can move on to the next section.
Wait, I have one probably in my purse. Steve, come here.
Steve, you come here. I probably have.
Okay.
Yep, let's I'll make sure we are on mute. I know we know that, so let's keep moving, Jim.
Okay, no problem at all. Our first requested vote is for the allocation of the rate stabilization reserves to benefit the elderly government retirees. Next slide, please. As you may recall, historically, the GIC has used funds that were previously contributed by the EGR members to a fully insured product, and we now use the reserves from those fully insured products to reduce the premiums for the EGR population. The EGR pool, as you may recall from prior years, has been retired for quite some time. There are sufficient funds in the EGR reserves to achieve no changes in premiums for them in FY24, and this use of the reserves is consistent with the use of the funds in the several previous years. Next slide, please. We propose using the funds as described above from the EGR reserves to maintain premium levels as unchanged. The dollars are here. It's 2,400 of the 64,000 projected EGR rate stabilization reserve balance and $700 from the $64,000 EGR CIC rate stabilization balance. And again, the combined effect of these subsidizations would be to hold the EGR premiums constant for FY24. Next slide, please. Pending approval of the health plan rates and a vote later on today in the commission, the premiums to EGRs would be as described above. And with that, we respectfully request that you approve the motion on the next slide to apply the EGR reserves. And I'm also happy to answer any questions you may have.
I don't see any questions. So if I'm understanding you, Jim, we have $64,000 set aside for these members for their lifetime. And we're
Correct.
2,400 so that their rates stay exactly the same.
That's right. That's right. And this is how we've been trying to return the money from those reserves to that population.
Yeah. Hey, Eileen, I see you have your hand up.
I just had a quick question. How big is the population of?
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Brilliant.
I should have mentioned that. It's we now have 5 EGRs. So it's,
Okay.
we have 5. Thank you for asking that. I meant to highlight that on the slide. Thank you.
So we definitely want that $64,000 to take care of them for the rest of their lives. So
Correct.
I think the
Correct.
2,400, it would appear with some fast math, is a good use of funds for these folks.
I agree. I do.
Did that answer your question, Eileen? Yeah.
It did.
All right. Well, I don't see any other discussions.
Madam
so-
Chair, I'm
Yep.
sorry, pardon the interruption. Before we go to a vote on this, I think at least one, if not 2 commissioners may have been having some audio problems. And before we move to a vote, Tim, can you just confirm, take yourself off mute and see if we can hear you? Yep, got you. And Commissioner Edmonds, can you just?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry, proceed with the vote. Thanks.
Oh, yeah, good, good, logistical, taking care of that. Matt, I still don't see anybody's hand up who wants to discuss. So at this point, I will entertain a motion to approve the spending for the amount proposed for the elderly government retirees, rate stabilization and CIC reserves to reduce the FY24 premium as been presented by the staff here.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Also.
Okay, so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Andrew for a vote, but I vote yay.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner, Vice Chair Kaplan,
Yay.
Undersecretary Hornby,
Yay.
Designee Butler,
Yay.
Commissioner Shabbat,
Yes.
Commissioner Chapdelaine,
Yes.
Commissioner Choate,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
Commissioner Edmonds, Commissioner Edmonds, I didn't hear you, I'm assuming.
You hear that? Yes.
There you go. Gotcha. Commissioner Gentile,
Yes.
Commissioner Guerin,
Yes.
Commissioner Jennings,
Yes.
Commissioner McEnany,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy Rodriguez,
Yes.
Commissioner Sullivan,
Yes.
and Commissioner Sinenko.
Yes.
The vote passes unanimously.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jim and staff for that presentation. Let's move on.
Okay, thank you very much. In a moment, I'll turn the presentation over to Margaret, who will walk us through the proposed health plan premium rates for FY24. In summary, the final results are a cumulative result of procurement, benefit design, and carrier rate negotiations. The rates you see will be reflective of all those factors. As you may recall from the December meeting, our preliminary forecast of aggregate portfolio increase was in the range of 4 to 8%. The final portfolio increase comes in at 5.1% over FY23, which is a pretty strong result. As you will see in the following slides, there was a wide range of premium increases and premium levels, which is one of the many reasons that you hear us repeatedly say that members should shop for a plan that best serves their individual needs. Next slide, please. A little lag on my side. Here's the outline of the rate. The outline of the rate presentation Margaret will lead us through. We have a brief review of the developmental process and the timeline and the factors that go into developing the rates, and a summary of results. Following that is a table of full cost premiums for non-Medicare and Medicare plans. And finally, after that discussion, a proposed motion to vote on the rates. And with that, I'll turn it over to Margaret. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Next slide, please. Great. All right, well, why are we here today? As you are all aware, the purpose of this presentation is to present the FY24 health insurance premiums for a vote. Our actuarial consultants at Willis Towers Watson develop our rates annually for each of our products. I will be presenting rates in our non-Medicare portfolio. These are the products with active employees as well as non-Medicare eligible retirees. And I will also be presenting Medicare rates for our retirees. It's worth noting that coming out of the procurement, the majority of our plans remain the same, with two exceptions. Tufts and Harvard Pilgrim, of course, merged into point 32. And the second exception is that our national plan was changed from Unicare Basic to Harvard Pilgrim All Access. Next slide, please. Before we jump into the rates, a quick refresher on how we got here. Our rate setting process spans about 6 months. Between September and December, WTW requests data from our carriers and PBMs and prepares status quo rates. This sets a baseline for us to develop our plan design changes to mitigate premium increases. Then WTW works with our vendors to estimate adjustments for any design changes, and we finalize the budget impact of each potential design change. In January, GIC staff bring these proposed changes to you for discussion. February, you vote on the product design changes. And that brings us, of course, to today, where you will vote on the specific rate changes. Next slide, please. All right, I've got a few definitional slides to run through quickly. As you know, a premium is the amount of money that is needed to pay providers for services and medications. They do not include out-of-pocket expenses, and most of our members pay only a portion of the full premium cost. Next slide. As I just mentioned, our members pay only a portion of the full premium. The Commonwealth pays the largest share, and these premiums vary based on the employee's hire date. Municipalities set contributions themselves independently. Another definitional slide here. This is our
I have a question regarding the percentages, if that's okay.
Sure.
So I'm very curious what numbers we're talking about on each percentile. How many? Because, you know, roughly, I would say about half of state employees certainly are paying 25%, and the other half paying 20%. So I'm curious how many subscribers actually are in the 15 and 10% groups.
Yeah,
I actually have the same question. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I'm happy to get them.
And isn't the rates legislatively defined?
That's right.
So
That's
it's
right.
not something we pick ourselves, but it's voted on, and each year it's changed, right? Or the changes are corresponded to years.
Yes, so it's higher dates of our members,
Yes.
and that's outside of the GIC's control. Yes.
Right, that is correct. However, let me just say this, that any state employee hired after, it was either July or September of 2003, 20 years ago, that it was the contribution was increased to 25%. So if you think about it, right, and people who were hired, roughly in, God, I forget, like 20%, it was about 30 years before that, 20 or 30 years.
Right.
So it's not changed that often, but what I will say is that roughly, okay, half of active employees are paying 25% and the other half are paying 20%. And there have to be a very small number, maybe it's in the retiree population, that are paying 10 and 15%. So even though it is determined legislatively, okay, and the municipalities, are able to set their own, correct me, Adam or Tim, if I'm wrong about that, but I think it's a little maybe disingenuous to have, without knowing how many members we are actually in that lower percentage, because the majority of people are in the 20 and 25%.
That's correct. And these small increments matter a great deal to our members. And I'm happy to pull the distribution and bring that to the commission.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good
I would
point.
appreciate it, but unfortunately, once again, we're getting the data after we vote. That's the problem. It's just like having to vote on the plan design without knowing the rates. And now we have this, slide which shows us, but it doesn't really give us accurate information. And it's disturbing to me that we don't have it, and yet we are forced to vote without having all that data. So it's not a reflection on the GIC. I think that Matt and all the GIC staff and everyone who's worked on this, it's a terrific presentation. Okay, but I'm very concerned for the population that I represent. Okay, and that we as labor represent. It's you can use statistics and data and manipulate it sort of any way to demonstrate what you have. So when I look at this, I know that there are, a smattering maybe of active employees who are in the 15%. And my guess would be that there are no 10%ers any longer as active employees, just based on the dates that the legislation was passed. Right. So, so I want to be clear that everybody's aware what we're voting on, that think about, most people are not paying 10% of the premium. They're paying 25%.
That's right.
Mike, I just want to, first of all, I think Vice Chair Bobby spelled it out in greater detail and more eloquently than I ever could. But when I was looking at the numbers, I was just trying to say to myself, what does this really mean to the people that we represent? How do you explain it in layperson terms so they understand the impact of what we see in front of us? So I kind of echo the concern that, ideally, when you vote on something, you want to feel that you are solid in understanding what those percentages mean.
Absolutely. And this was in no way meant to obscure for anything for membership, and we can get the actual numbers of members in each of these buckets to you very easily. Happy to do that.
I will say, these are contextual facts, right? And I certainly understand the desire for more detail on this slide, but it is, we provide this as important background information, and I guess it's maybe, Bobby, you can help me understand how having that information would change the way you would consider acting on the premium rates. These are, as was noted, these are facts that are not within our control. These are not variables that we can change. it's simply background contextual information for you. I guess I'm having a hard time understanding where having that additional information would help inform you about a vote on premium rates.
So I'm not disputing the facts, okay? That this is, very factual that at certain, times, right, the legislature votes to increase the percentage that employees pay towards the.
Oh, you just went on mute, Bob.
Sorry.
That's all right.
So it's accurate information, but it doesn't represent like true numbers. Like if I didn't know anything, if I were not a state employee, I would have no idea. What does this mean? How many people are actually paying 25% of the premium? How many GIC members are paying 20%? And what I know is that since 2003, so that's 20 years ago, right, that contribution was raised legislatively to 25%. And prior to that, I think, and maybe someone can correct me, but I think it was like in the late 80s or early 90s that it was increased to 20%. So, every, 10 to 20 years, the legislature decides they're going to increase that percentage. And so there are many people, the 10 percenters and the 15 percenters are no longer active employees.
We don't know that. We need the data. So I think what you're saying is we need the data because we don't know. And it also would be nice, and then I think we can move on potentially to also see, how it compares, and WTW must have it, to other states and to, the private sector, because you want the full picture. And you're right, Bobby, data can tell a story either way. And so I think what you're saying is it doesn't feel that genuine. And so when we do put data here, let's make sure it's as complete as possible.
Well, Valerie, I wouldn't say that it's not genuine. These are true numbers, right?
Without having percent of people, it
without
could be,
knowing, yes,
Yeah.
without knowing how many people that impacts, right? Because you can compare to other states and you can compare, to the private sector. But what we all know, because it's in the headlines every single day, is that Massachusetts has one of the highest childcare rates in the country. We have one of the highest costs of living in the country. And what I can tell you is that state employees are approximately 12 to 14% behind, that we have lost over, during the last administration, okay, as far as increases. And retirees only get a COLA increase on the first, and you probably know this, Jane, it used to be the first 13,000. I remember that there was a bill a few years ago to increase that to 16,000. I don't know that it passed, but even so, think about this. The cost of living for retirees who are collecting a pension, okay, it increases only on the first $13,000 or $16,000 of their pension. We're talking about a few $100s a year increase that retirees, most of whom do not have Social Security and only have their pension, any increase impacts them significantly.
Yeah,
It's a disgrace, in my opinion, that the legislature, who voted themselves huge increases,
Yeah. So I think I see some other hands up. So Catherine, do you want to weigh in here?
Sure. So since as has been mentioned, this is set legislatively, or more precisely, it's set in the annual budget, and it hasn't changed since 2012. So there are a couple of things that I just wanted to sort of share my understanding, and maybe Executive Director can correct me if he thinks I'm off base here, but share my understanding and also perspective on kind of how it flows through in terms of increases. So my understanding is that none of this has changed in terms of these percentages rather. None of this has changed in at least 10 years or more. And state employees entirely pay 20% or they pay 25%. There are no state employees who are paying 10% or 15% because it's set each year in the budget. And again, like hasn't changed in years. Employees who were hired before June 30th, 2003 pay 20%. Employees who were hired after that date pay 25%. And the percentage, the only ways that the 10 or 15% would apply would be in terms of retirees. So that has to do with date of retirement. So historically, the legislature has been extremely reluctant to change the retiree contribution percentage after the retirees have already retired, on the theory that people make their decisions about retirement and about cost of living, and that they should be able to kind of rely on those decisions. And so there have been sort of watershed, points at which those dates have changed. But once you're retired, it seems like those rates are pretty well stuck. The thresholds in terms of retirees are in 1994. So before or after is 10%. If you're between 1994 and I think 2003, 1994 is one of the dates, and then 2003, I think, is another of the dates. But essentially, like whatever you retire at, you keep at that percentage. So the reason I wanted to raise this is that I think that where people are they're in the starting position they're in, right? Like they're paying 25% now, they're paying 15% now, they're paying 20% now. And I think the rest of this presentation is focused on the experience from that perspective. If their premium is going to go up 5%, 9%, 2%, whatever, 0%, however the premium is going to move, because none of these percentages are changing, and because, as has been noted, the board doesn't have the authority to change any of these percentages. Whatever percentage you're at now will be your experience in terms of the rate of increase. So if you're at 25% now, you stay there. If you're at 20% now, you stay there. So I think that, I would think that it would be helpful to see kind of how does this break out. Like I'd be interested to know. My understanding is that majority of employees at this point are paying 25%, but it would be just kind of interesting to see the data. And I agree with the vice chair that it would be kind of interesting to see how this plays out. But for the purposes of this meeting, the rates of increase will be the rates of increase that are proposed to the remainder of the deck. And that's my understanding, because none of these contribution ratios are changing at the state level. And there's, as far as I'm aware, no proposal for them to change. And so I think that this provides good context, but doesn't, as long as these rates aren't changing, the rates of increase, or in some cases decrease, in the remainder of this deck will be the sort of the relevant experience for GIC members. I think, let me know if I got any of that wrong, but that's my perspective on sort of how this plays through.
No, I believe that's correct. Jim can chime in here as well. I would say we're not manipulating this data in any way with any agenda, other than providing context and background that's relevant generally. It is simply the facts as we understand them. I will say, while we're talking, I do have a member of the team trying to see if we can pull together some of those numbers, even if they're in general way. So we may have something more to report on that.
That's good. Adam, your hand had been up and now it's down. Did you want to weigh in at all?
Catherine said what I was going to try to say much more eloquently, so I have nothing further to say.
Yes, very nice job, Catherine. Can we move on, or is there more discussion here? I think Bobby's nodding her head, so I'm going to ask you to keep moving, Margaret. Thank you.
Sure. Next slide, please. So this is the last of our definitional slides. Just a reminder that the GIC is self-insured with the exception of our one Medicare Advantage product. As such, the Commonwealth takes the risk with respect to healthcare spending exceeding premiums. Next slide, please. A little background on what is driving these premium increases. First and foremost, provider consolidation and the resulting market power of large medical systems drives medical rate increases. It's also important to note that the industry is recovering from the pandemic. We're seeing a return in utilization, and there are continuing costs associated with COVID. And finally, pharmacy spending continues to significantly drive rate increases as well, particularly prices on brand name and specialty drugs. Next slide, please. Here's the high level and related benchmarks. Our rate increase across the commercial portfolio is 5.7%. Putting this in context, the most recently available data from the top benefit consulting firms predicts an increase from 5.6 to 7.4% nationally for large employers. These are projections. The GIC comes in at the very low end of these estimates at a 5.7 aggregate increase. Note that this compares to the rate increase at the connector, who came in at 7.6% this year. And while I in no way mean to suggest that our premium increases are not substantial to our members, they are. I do want to highlight that we are performing well compared to the available benchmarks.
Hey, Anna, I see you have a question.
Yeah, I just wondered, is this 5.7% a straight average across the plans, or is it
No,
a weighted average based on enrollment? Yeah.
That's right. There's substantial variation, and we'll get into that in the next couple slides.
So this is weighted for where people are enrolled?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yes. Next slide, please. You'll recall that in December, we said to expect an increase between 4 and 8%. Our final aggregate increase across the portfolio is on the low end of that prediction at 5.1%, with commercial at 5.7 and Medicare at 2.3. This graphic shows the variation in our product rate increases. You'll see that we have a substantial range here from almost 7,000 members who will see a 5% decrease in their rates to about 21,000 members who will see an increase of just over 10% if they stay in their current product. In the next slide, we will get into the actual rate for each product. What I would like everyone to take away from this slide and the considerable range here is that members will need to shop for the rate and benefit design that best suits their needs this year.
Hey, can you go back to that other slide, Margaret?
The previous slide?
Yeah, this one right here.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure there's a lot on this slide. So
sure.
Basically, you are showing members where they're at right now and what the projected rate increase will be, saying 56% of these folks, their premium increase will be very low, like 80,000 members.
Yes.
If they stayed the same, will have a 2 to 3% increase.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, and to that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And so I just wanted to make sure we pause on this slide because it's got some good data, and it looks like while you're suggesting that people shop, some people may not want to shop because their rates are going to go down, but that's why they need to shop to validate that they're in the right plan for them.
Yeah, that's correct. And I would say, you know, the corollary to that is those that are in the bars to the right have alternatives, right? These are the increases they would face were they not to act and stay in the plan that they're in or migrate to a new plan if the plan they're in is being retired. But they have options even within their plan categories. So if you're in one of the broad network plans, for instance, Tufts, the Tufts Navigator plan being retired, you'll be migrated if you don't act to Harvard Pilgrim Explorer plan, but you have other alternatives available to you. You have Unicare Plus, you have the MGB health plan. So there are opportunities for those who could otherwise face significant increases here to save some money by shopping. That's really an important point this year.
Yeah, and how can we help these folks? I want to make sure that we are thinking, how can we help these 42,000 members who may have an 8 to 9% increase? Are they the ones that we have their emails, that they're in the portal, that they feel comfortable asking the questions? I'm just curious. I want to make sure that we are thinking about helping these members as much as possible so they get the right product for them at the price that they, can be comfortable with. And that's, value, right? They're getting value from it.
Yeah, and I'd say, key to this effort, although it's not the only part of it, is our annual enrollment session. So we're putting a good deal of time into how we can present this in a way that is accessible and understandable for our members, and particularly for those plans that are being retired.
Yeah, and it is a big year with that.
Yeah.
So, hey, I know you guys were hard at work trying to pull up some of the numbers that Bobby asked about at this pause point so people can look at the slide. Do you have an update for us?
Yeah, if you, Leslie, if you can go back to slide 22, just to go back to that discussion. Paul?
Thank you, Matt. I did some quick calculations looking at health plans and coverages out of our system. So I can give you some rough numbers of people with health insurance. So the 10%, there's about 800 people left with 10%. 15%, we have 21,140 members. 20%, we have 33,770 members. And 25%, we have 32,633. So the bigger category seems to be the 20%. Okay. And again, those are rough numbers with people with health insurance. We have a sprinkle of people that are paying 102, but that's the COBRA people. And we have a couple of dozen people paying 100% that are on leave of absence. But that's what I could quickly get from the system with people with health insurance.
Nice.
Thank you, Paul.
So, Bobby?
Yes, I wanted to thank Paul very much. His response time is incomparable, I must say. Thank you for those numbers. It's greatly appreciated. But to my point earlier, the majority of people are in the 20 and 25%. So that even though those percentages are fixed legislatively, it's the increases for the greater, for the majority of people. And that, we can talk about percentages, but the numbers, the dollar amount is what counts for people. People do not look at least the people I represent, do not look at, a percent increase. They look at the dollar amount. So if it's going to cost them, $100 more a month, that's significant, right? It's the percentages, it's great. And GIC has done an amazing job under Matt's direction. I will say that, I'm greatly impressed. I know that you work really hard every single day to keep costs down, but the bottom line is that there are increases which in dollars and cents, particularly where our members, don't even get increases that count. They're actually decreases in pay. And so any increase, $100 a month, $200 a month, because most people want to keep their providers, right? They want to have the same care they had previously. And so to Valerie's point, I'm very interested in, sort of the outreach that in what outreach there's going to be for people who are currently in Tufts and Harvard, who'll be moved to, Harvard Explorer. And then the people who were in Always, who are now going to be MGB. So I'm curious because those are the people who are going to be more heavily impacted.
Yeah,
right?
let's go back to the slide where Margaret was, because there were some, there does seem to be some plans that have, zero premium increases and some decline. So
Really?
I think,
Okay, I'd like to see that, yes.
so look at this. This is the slide. It looks like 6,956 will, maybe you should just walk us through the slide, Margaret, and say what it says.
Sure. So as I said, there's a considerable range here. We've got from -5%, so a decrease in rates, to slightly over 10%. On the negative end, we had a great success coming out of the procurement. You'll remember we changed our national product from Unicare Basic to Harvard Pilgrim Access America. And what we saw there was, because Harvard Pilgrim Access America has a better fee schedule outside of New England, we were able to decrease rates for the non-New England members. That was a big win. And then also we're going to have members who have, let's see here. Yeah, we have negative rate increases for our Harvard Pilgrim members who, from the legacy Harvard Pilgrim products, moving to the Harvard Pilgrim Quality for the narrow network, and Harvard Pilgrim Explorer for the broad network. We also see negative increases for them. I have this broken out in coming slides. I think it's going to be easier to see there, and it'll have the absolute dollar amount for these premiums, so we can see exactly what those numbers are for our members. But this is to give a sense of the distribution. And again, the good news story is we do have negative increases or rate decreases for some of the products. And on the top end, I do want to note about that 10% plus is alarming for the members in that bucket. However, these are products that have been eliminated, and it's like the Tough Spirit product for families. That product no longer exists, but the members, if they do not shop, will be placed in Harvard Pilgrim Quality, and we'll see an above 10% increase. They do have options to shop and mediate that increase.
Yeah, and we'd love to keep talking about that. So let's
next slide, please. Sure.
I saw Anna had her hand and then took it down. Anna, if you still have a question, sorry.
I think we're getting there. I was just going to note that I think it's important to think about both percentages and dollars. Like, I think when you think about any member's experience, a 10% increase on $600, can be lower than a 5% increase on $1,000, or they're about similar, right? And so, like, I think the percentages tell one story and the dollars tell another. And then the other thing to keep in mind, I was just going to suggest that, like, some of the later slides, which you're going to get to, which are great, show, sort of for a product, what the increase is, both in dollars and percentage next to each other. And then within type of plan, because the other thing that's going on this slide is you've got Medicare and commercial all together. And it's hard to see, like, what options are available for people who want the same sort of type of coverage. So I think that this is, of course, quite complicated. and so, like, I encourage us to look at all of that together, like in a couple of slides, so that we can really see what the options for switching are for people.
Actually, that's the same point that I was making earlier, that it's at the end of the day, you want to be able to be confident that you can explain what these percentages mean when asked. And my, that was what my hope is, that we could translate these percentages, whether it's in dollars, however we structure it, so that an average person who asks the question will understand what these numbers mean.
Well, let's keep moving. I
All
think
right.
we all have the desire to understand the numbers, and I'm confident Margaret does.
Yeah, let's get into it. All right, next slide. This is individual rates by carriers. All right, by carrier and product. So I want to highlight here the major takeaways before we get into the discussion. Again, the Harvard Pilgrim and Tufts merger, we've got a resulting product and rate as an improvement or a negative increase for the Harvard Pilgrim members and an increase for the Tufts members. The next point I want to pull out is that with Access America Harvard product, the negative increase for our non-New England basic members, that negative increase is a procurement win for sure. And finally, all the way on the right, Unicare Basic Total Choice rate increase should be understood in the context of the expanded benefits that are also provided. So first we have CIC, if you recall, is incorporated now into the Total Choice Premium, where it used to be Unicare Basic, and then you had to buy CIC, and CIC was bought at 100%. Now Total Choice has CIC incorporated into the premiums. And second, copays were lowered on this product as well. So I know everyone wants percentages and actual numbers, so I'm going to jump into that. For the for members who were in Tufts plans, the Tufts Spirit individual plan, that is a $45.46 increase for the full cost of the premium. So again, it's important to remember that's a full premium increase, that's 6.8%. And then as we discussed, the members are taking on, most members, 20 or 25% of that $45 increase. So those are the real numbers there. We've got for the Navigator plan, which is the broader legacy Tufts plan, they'll be moving into the Harvard Pilgrim equivalent plan, Explorer. That's an $85 increase on the rate. And again, the members will be taking on, most members, 20 to 25% of that, and that is 8.8%.
Yeah. Hey, Eileen has a question.
Please.
Thank you. It's more just a comment. I mean, I think it's really important. You pointed out, you know, for the Unicare product, that it represents more benefits. And I think obviously the cost of the premium is important, but what are the underlying benefits are also equally important. So just want to make sure that, you know, to the extent that they are not an apples to apples comparison, that is the type of thing that is emphasized, because it is important for people to understand. In some instances, the benefits may be perhaps more generous than the other plan. The premium may reflect that, but that may be something that's a welcome change. So it's really important that the benefits be highlighted too.
Yeah.
I think that's an important point. And there are, you know, across our portfolio, we have narrow, broad, and national products that are increasingly more robust in terms of provider access. For that additional access, there is a dollar implication. So you're buying more for your premium dollar. Having that variation is important so that our members can choose what best suits their needs.
Yep.
All right, I don't want to move on too quickly from this slide. Are there more questions?
I don't see any.
Okay. Next slide, please. All right, this slide mirrors the prior slide. We see the same effects of the 0.32 merger. We see the same gains to the non-New England members who moved to Access America. And we see the same benefit design increases with Total Choice. Again, that's the CIC incorporated into the premium and the lowered copays. Again, absolute numbers and percentages, the Tufts Spirit members, the family product members who will move to Harvard Quality if they do not shop, that will be a $194 increase across the full premium, of which most members will pay 20 or 25%, and that's 11.9%. The Tufts Navigator product members in that plan will be moved to the Harvard Pilgrim Explorer plan. That's an additional $229 a month. Most members will pay 20 or 25% of that. and that is 10.5% increase. A couple of, or one note from the Tufts plans to the Harvard plans. The Harvard plans do have a more robust network. They have more provider choices. So there is in addition to the extra cost for the Tufts members, they will be seeing a broader network than they had in their previous plan.
So I know Bobby has a question. I have just a clarifying question. People who are on COBRA
Yes.
for now, if they can change health plans during open enrollment and still be on COBRA, right? So they can have a reduction in their premium.
I'm going to look to Paul for that.
Yes, Commissioner Sullivan, yes, they can switch plans during open enrollment.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Bobby.
No, I just wanted to comment that I'm very, first of all, I wanted to sort of just say that my understanding, the HPHC Access America, right?
Yes.
That is approximately, that covers like 4,200 people. Is that correct? That number sort of sticks in my head. Those are the people who live outside of
That's right.
New England, right?
That's
So
right.
it's a smaller group. And I'm very pleased that people who are currently in Harvard, because of the merger, will be paying less.
Yes.
I do appreciate that, but people who are in Tufts, right, will be
Yes.
paying more.
Yes.
Correct? Is that
That's
right?
If they don't shop, yes.
Right. If they don't, right, correct. If they don't shop. So I just, so there is going to be an additional cost for those people if they don't shop or they just decide they want to stay, sort of in that plan. And I just want to make sure that with all the changes, to plan design and because of the mergers and acquisitions and all that, that there's plenty of outreach. I know you're messaging, but sometimes, people have to be like grabbed, right? Because they're not paying attention, right? And I'm concerned about, it's a large number of people, right? Who could be placed into a plan and then suddenly, wonder, why am I in this plan or what happens? And so I just want to make sure, because I, given the fact that you did those sessions back in January, I was surprised that people have sort of reached out and said, well, what's happening with GIC? Like, I don't know what happens, but I am concerned about the outreach. And I just want to say, sometimes I do get very excited and emotional about this every single, March, but, I am very concerned about any increases, given what I know about, increases for state employees, in addition to inflation and, the cost of healthcare, particularly in this part of the world. But I do want to congratulate GIC. I know that, and Matt, and Paul and Jim, because you've done an amazing job. And Margaret, I didn't mean to leave you out, Margaret, sorry. But you've done a terrific job in trying to keep costs down, and have done the best, I am quite sure, that you possibly could. But, we do have restrictions and, there's limited flexibility. So I do appreciate everything you've done, but, there are going to be increases, and it's important to note that state employees have fallen significantly behind as far as income. And so any increase at all is burdensome for the majority of my members. And I'm quite sure my fellow labor commissioners can attest to the same. So that's all I wanted to say right now anyway. So thanks. I appreciate you understanding.
Thank you, Bobby. And I'm sure that as you're talking to your constituents, Bobby, and they say, what's going on with GIC? Ask them, what else would the GIC need to do to engage you? Because we do emails, we do LinkedIn, we do this, we do that. Where do you need your information? Because I'm confident the staff want to reach our constituents where they are and give them the messages to engage them to be, you know, shopping and knowing what's going on. And we're all just so busy. Maybe that is, you know, your people missed one thing. And so now they have another opportunity, which is great and not always provided. So I do applaud the agency for doing more outreach, and maybe there'll never be enough, but let's keep trying. Hey, Anna, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to note, like, one of the great things about this procurement is the changes to the national plan, where this was an example of where my understanding anyway is that the GIC was able to switch carriers and provide access to essentially the same network of providers, like 98% of the providers are the same, for significantly lower prices. And you can see that translates right here directly into lower rates for the plans. And so I think that that's just important to highlight, as if we, you know, because these rising healthcare costs are so real, right? And it's a lot of it is provider prices. And so I think looking, you know, this is a good strategy, like going forward, continuing to try to find ways to really move our members in the direction of plans with lower rates, or providers who charge lower rates will lead to then lower premium increases over time.
Yeah, that's a good comment. So yeah, good work.
Thank you, commissioners. Next slide, please. Okay, these are the rates. This is what you're voting on. Again, to restate, the aggregate increase for FY24 non-Medicare products is 5.7%. Across our product types, a reminder that our lowest price plan remains Unicare's Community Choice, a narrow network. Tough Spirit and Harvard Pilgrim Primary Choice narrow network products are now combined, and members will be migrated to the Harvard Quality product if they do not shop during open enrollment. Broad network products offer a larger network. The trade-off for these larger networks is provider choice and higher premiums. Always Complete is no longer a regional, but a broad product. And finally, the national product, as Commissioner Sanaiko just mentioned, is the most expensive. It offers the most choice and the most generous benefits, but of course, we had a decrease in that rate this year.
And those are our snowbirds, or those escaping the cold weather or other reasons. We don't want them to leave, though, to stay. Okay. Questions, comments for Margaret? And just to confirm, that 5.7% is weighted. So you take the number of people in that plan, what the growth is. It's not a straight average.
That's right.
There's a lot on this slide, right? And given the prior conversation, I think it's worth sort of leaving this for a moment and seeing if folks have other questions.
Well, I don't see questions, and we definitely have the time, commissioners. So if you do have questions or comments, we have the time to discuss.
And while folks think about that, I'll just say that, at several points in this discussion, we've been talking about the need to clearly and as simply as possible communicate the implications of the changes that are happening this year and the result on premiums. And we are spending a lot of time on that. So that I suspect that the slides for those sessions will, of course, look a lot different than these slides, or at least some of them, because this is, we want to break it down to be more accessible for our members. So, so we are spending a lot of time doing that.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to reinforce the good work that was done with the procurement, because I do think we're seeing the effects here with some of the reductions, and the plans have, with the consolidation of Harvard and Tufts, have appeared to be methodical in their approach to affordability across the products. So that is good. And so, seeing no other questions here, Rebecca.
Yes, hi. I just wanted to thank the GIC for all the hard work that they've done here, and also having the thoughtful contributions from the consumer viewpoint, like, Commissioner Kaplan has provided. It makes you really think about this, and I know there's tremendous work in making this as clear as it is. It's very complicated stuff, and so I really appreciate it.
Yes, we appreciate what your agency does, Rebecca, for the work that's done here. So good comment.
Thank you, Rebecca.
I don't see anybody else's hand up. So at this point, I will entertain a motion. Let's go to the next slide. Oops, do we have
No.
more rates? We have more
Not
rates. So wait a minute, more rates.
All right, so this slide, these are the related member contributions. We just wanted to spell those out for everyone. This is the portion of the premium that our subscribers pay based on where they fall in the contribution percentage. And they, as we've discussed, are defined by subscriber start dates and retirement dates.
So being thoughtful on that, that's good. Bobby, do you have a question on that?
I do have a question. So what would be really helpful on this particular one, because this is what members care about.
Mm-hmm.
What is the dollar amount that is going to be deducted from their paychecks every 2 weeks? Right. So,
yep.
So this slide, right, is this the biweekly contribution?
Yeah,
is this the monthly?
That's right.
Okay. So what really would be helpful, certainly for the future, is what is it going to be biweekly? This is what people care about, not monthly, not in aggregate. I can tell you, okay, that there are increases, because I looked at some of the numbers, right, that people were paying. And what would really be helpful would be to present this just the way you had it in the previous slide, which is what's the comparison? What was their contribution biweekly in 2023 or FY23 to FY24?
Mm-hmm.
So that people can see, are we talking about a $20 a week increase, pay period, $20 per pay period increase? We're talking about 40. We're talking about a $5 decrease. That's what people are interested, because people are budgeting, right? When you don't get salary increases, which state employees have not gotten since last July, and that was a mere 2%, may I say, that this is what people are looking at when everything else has increased. And I would appreciate if we could do that, because this does not reflect the biweekly deduction, contribution, however you want to frame it. But I looked at it and I see that there are increases, and it's not reflected, like you have nothing to compare it to unless you have it in front of you. So it would be really helpful, I think, for the commission, for the commissioners, as well as our constituents, to do that. So
I think that's
thank you.
That's a great comment, and we can do that and maybe get that ready for the open enrollment sessions too.
Yeah.
That would be great if you could do that, so that when people are enrolling, they would have that information, as well as, looking at the plan design, because that's such a huge factor in what is the difference, right? What am I going to be paying? So I think that would be great if you can, if you have the time, if you're able to do it before the enrollment sessions.
Yeah. Okay, if there are no further comments on the commercial slide, let's move to the Medicare slide. Just the next slide, please. These are the Medicare rates for FY24 with an aggregate increase of 2.3%. As a reminder, all but one of our Medicare plans are supplemental products that offer similar value and coverage. There are increases across all products except the Health New England product, which state level. Next slide, please. And excuse me, here is the member contribution slide for our Medicare subscribers, again, based on their enrollment or retirement date. Same thing here. This is the monthly contribution, and I hear the commissions that it would be much more useful to our members to see this as biweekly deductions.
Yep. Let's keep moving.
Okay. All right.
So I jumped the gun by quite a few slides there, Margaret, huh?
That's all right.
But we've had some good discussion. I don't see anybody else's hand up. You've sliced the data and given us the information on the rates. And at this point, not seeing anybody's desire to continue questioning, debating, commenting, I will entertain a motion as put forth on this slide to approve the FY24 full cost premiums as we have been presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
So Toby went first and Eileen second. So thank you both. And we'll vote by roll call again with Andrew on us. I vote yes.
Vice Chair Kaplan?
Well, in good conscience, I cannot vote yes, because based on my prior statements and the fact that, although GIC has done an amazing job, I cannot vote for increases to the premiums for my members. So my vote is no.
Undersecretary Hornby?
I vote yes.
Designee Butler?
Yes.
Commissioner Shabbat?
In solidarity with my fellow commissioner, I vote no.
Commissioner Schultz?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Edmonds?
No.
Commissioner Gentile?
No.
Commissioner Guerrand?
I vote no.
Commissioner Jennings?
Yes.
Commissioner McEnany?
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez, Murphy Rodriguez,
Yes.
Commissioner Tim Sullivan,
No.
and Commissioner Sinenko.
Yes.
The motion passes 9-6.
Okay, you want to make sure of that, Andrew. And we did see that Commissioner Chapdelaine had to drop off. So let's make sure we note that in the minutes. And so, Andrew, do you just want to repeat that one more time?
Sure. Just for the record, Commissioner Chapdelaine left and Commissioner Kleinard is not present today. And we had 9 affirmative votes and I'm sorry. We had 9 affirmative votes and
6
in opposition.
All right, great. Appreciate you repeating that. The motion did pass. We've heard all the conversation. Might be time to move on now. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this point, hand it back over to Jim Rust for what I believe is our final item around the municipal administrative fee.
Yes, thanks, Matt. And hello again, commissioners. The final rate that we're requesting approval for is the municipal administration fee. We are requesting the commission to authorize the GIC to set the fee paid by municipalities to support the cost incurred by the GIC to administer this benefits program. Next slide, please. The fee in FY23, the current year, was 0.3%, and we request the fee remain unchanged. And again, this rate will allow the GIC to collect the required amount to cover the administration expenses associated with the program. Next slide, please. Oh, and with that, unless people have questions, we can move to a motion.
So no cost of living increase. They're putting on.
So moved.
No, this fee increased last year. It tends to go into a step pattern because there's a legislative cap on the amount of revenue that we collect. So it depends on the relationship between the premiums and that amount. So it remains unchanged.
But my point is, it stayed the same
this year. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like Tamara has a question.
Yes, the question I have is, maybe we need a slight update here as to what we are doing, and I know we are assertive about this, in terms of gaining more municipalities to join the GIC.
Yes, we definitely, Mike Berry heads our program there, and he and I work together on municipal outreach. And, I know Executive Director Vino has also been going to meetings with MMA and other places. So we are out there. The municipalities know that we're here. We have a lot of information that we give them so they can shop between us and their other alternatives with the best information possible. So we are out there. We are out there making sure that the municipalities know that the GIC is an option for them, and they should use us either as a pricing benchmark or as their best alternative, or in any way that we can serve them. So this has been an
Jim,
ongoing
what's the major barrier here as to the pushback as to why they prefer not to do this?
I think a lot of times it just comes down, that most of them use a consultant, and it comes down to a lot of the math, right? Evaluating what our rates are for their membership compared to what bids they're getting. It's a bid process, procurement process, which we're all too familiar with here, right? And they go out and they get their bids. They look at the benefits that are provided by the other bidders, and we encourage them to shop them against the GIC suite of benefits, and honestly make the decision that is best for them. In a lot of cases, it is the GIC, and in some cases, it's not, and that's the market right now.
Okay, so it's fairly clear, I would assume, then, what we offer, and there is no confusion out there as to what we offer versus going elsewhere. In other words, our competitive advantage here in terms of our size and so on is really not a competitive advantage for most of the municipalities. Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, I wouldn't say that. No, I think we're competitive for many of the
Okay.
municipalities. And they also, I can't speak, and I know Adam is no longer on the call,
Yeah.
but I can't speak for what all the munis do, but I know they look at things, when they look at their budget, they'll look at their whole personnel expense, their whole payroll expense, and their
Okay,
benefits
sure.
expense, right? And they look at that as a whole bucket, a whole line of expenses. So benefits are part of that, but they could look at it a number of different ways. They also have collective bargaining agreements with all their unions that they have to consider, and they have to come to agreement with them through the legislative process. And I'm not going to speak for Andrew here on what that process is, but there's a very regimented process for them to come to these agreements. So there's a number of factors other than just the lowest bid. But
Okay, great. Thanks, Jim.
And I do think that the commissioners heard a presentation a couple of meetings ago,
Mhm.
Tamara,
Yes,
about
I remember.
they were
Yes.
doing. So I do know the work continues, and it's a good question, and I'm glad that you've raised it here. It sounds like we're continuing to work with these municipalities in a way that meets their needs. Melissa, I think you might still be on, and you represent municipalities.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of what was said. I think, going to the GIC is a big process in any town or city. And we do have to go through an entire PEC agreement with all of our unions. So it can be rather comprehensive. I think another holdup is that you do lose control of your funds. So when you are keeping your health insurance internal, you have your own trust fund, which you can use to offset rates and offset rate increases. So some communities don't like to do that. But I think as more of us are seeing the benefits of the GIC, we just set our rates. We just set our budget for this year, and we're only $900,000 over when we joined the GIC 11 years ago. So our budget was $11 million when we joined 11 years ago. Now it's $11.9 million. Pretty amazing. And so when people see that success, I think they are interested in joining.
Yeah. Well, walking billboard for us, Melissa. Thank you. So at this point, I don't see any other comments or questions. So do I have a motion to approve the staff to set and collect the admin fee of 0.3% on top of full cost premiums from our municipalities?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by, who was that? Is that?
Oh, Tamara, second.
Thank you. So at this point, we'll have a roll call and we'll vote on this. I vote yay. Yes. Andrew?
Thank you. I had to get off mute. Vice Chair Kaplan,
Yay.
Undersecretary Hornby,
Yay.
Designee Butler,
Yay.
Commissioner Shabbat,
Yes.
Commissioner Choate,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
Commissioner Edmond,
Yes.
Commissioner Gentile,
Yes.
Commissioner Guerin, I'll move on. Commissioner Jennings,
Yes.
Commissioner McEnany,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy Rodriguez,
Yes.
Commissioner Sullivan,
Yes.
and Commissioner Semenko.
Yes.
Commissioner Guerin, you're on mute. If you want to raise your hand affirmatively, I'll take that. The
Well-
motion passes nonetheless. Commissioner Guerin, did you have a comment? Nope. The motion passes.
All right, great.
And I'll mark him as an abstention.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
All right.
Move on.
Thank you, commissioners. This was some dense material. I'm sorry, was that your Zena?
Yes, I had a little technical problem. I vote yes. I couldn't
Okay.
get
Thank-
back in.
Thank you. I changed you to a yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Sorry.
Commissioner Garrett.
So I think this is the last substantive slide. Yes. So just before we wrap, I want to thank the commission for bearing with us through, a complex presentation. On behalf of the staff, we certainly appreciate the confidence that you continue to express in us and our work. And clearly, on the affordability side, we have more work to do, and we know that, and we're thinking about that. The end of the procurement and plan design and rate setting phase doesn't represent the end of our work to address affordability for certain. So more to come on that as we go forward. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Thanks, Jim, Margaret, everybody who's worked on it. Thank WTW. I know that we are very fortunate to have WTW to push on the rates, their expertise. We very much appreciate their longstanding support and their good work. It's never an easy meeting to see our constituents have to absorb additional costs. I think that the procurement was very helpful and rally across all those who are here for the good of our members. So final comment, or at least I don't see anybody else with hands up for other business. I would like to ask the staff to double down on communicating to our members, to our constituents, those who are viewing on live stream, even if it's something you haven't done before, shop around, ask the staff questions, attend these open enrollments. If you learn one new thing about your health insurance as a result of taking some time to shop, to get on the portal, to give your email to us so that you can get connected and learn, it will hopefully be a valuable experience for you today and into the future. So good luck with annual enrollment. Paul, I know you're probably missing, the 14 van visits all over the state, but you'll have greater reach with the leveraging of technology. So at this point, seeing no other business, Matt, is there any final comment you'd like to make?
Yes, please. Just one, which is just want to acknowledge Undersecretary Catherine Hornby. As I understand it, tomorrow is her last day working for the state. As I think a number of commissioners here who have been on for a while will know, in addition to her recent leadership in the Executive Office of Health and Human Services as Undersecretary and Assistant Secretary for Budget. She also worked at the GIC as General Counsel and Deputy Director. I've had the opportunity and the pleasure to work with Catherine going back to her time in Senate Ways and Means, if I'm not mistaken, and in her current role and recent roles at ANF. So she's an extraordinary public servant to the Commonwealth. She will be missed, and I hope she won't be missed for long, and we'll have the opportunity to see her in state government again. So just didn't want the day to go without acknowledging Catherine and her work.
Yes, Catherine, I'm trying to put these little emoji things up to show I'm clapping and supporting you. I remember years past getting to know you through Dolores and then through these meetings. So best of luck. I did not know this was your last day, but I'm sure we'll see you somewhere else. So thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. I should say everything I learned, everything I know, I learned at the GIC.
Awesome. Well, that's what our commissioners say too. So thank you for reinforcing that. So Bobby, do you have your hand up, or is that?
Yes. No, I just wanted to echo what you said, Valerie. Catherine has been an amazing, such a valuable asset. And I have appreciated, all the time. I don't know you that well, but I will say that I know your work and appreciate your comments and your, you've been great. And so good luck, in the future. And I hope to see you around because you'll be a huge loss. That's what I'll say. So thank
Yes.
you for all your contributions.
An inspirational woman, as March is National Women's Month. So starts off admiring you, Catherine. So thank you. All right. So at this point, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. I will miss all of you very much until we see you in May. And I know the staff is working on a potential in-person meeting for June when the weather's good. So more to come on that. But we'll see you in May. And until then, enjoy our New England weather if you're in the area. And if you're not, enjoy every day. All right.